Chiefs Kingdom, welcome in to the AP Film Room, the latest edition, the newest edition, the latest episode coming at you from the Arrowhead Pride Facebook, Twitter, YouTube page on live tonight, Tuesday night. We're hanging out, talking ball as we do typically on Tuesday nights following the Chiefs' victory. For we hope, right? I am Ron Kopp Jr., lead analyst at the site, arrowheadpride.com. With me, as always, my guys, Caleb James at CJ Scoobs on Twitter, Nate Christensen at NateCH32. Fellas, we are off a Chiefs victory. Kind of nice after, coming off a loss the week before. We missed you last week, Nate, but we're all back. Trio's back, and we got some positive things to talk about. So, Caleb, how you feeling today after beating down on the Raiders Sunday?
I wouldn't say it was a beatdown for the first half of the game or so, but I think later as things went on, you saw why the Chiefs are the Chiefs and why the Raiders are the Raiders. I think the Chiefs did a really good job of calling the names of a few people, and we saw the defense fight back a little bit after they faced more adversity than we'd seen them face in quite a while in the first half there.
Yep, you're right, and I'm going to point that out a little bit. Some of the adversity was self caused. There's a better way to say that, but we'll talk about that. Nate, my guy, how are you today after advancing to 8-3, kind of sitting pretty in the AFC playoff picture?
I'm doing well. I like what Caleb just mentioned, kind of about like the resiliency. It's always good in a season when you kind of get punched in the mouth to be able to have a response like that, especially coming off a game on Monday night that was not great. It was nice to see the quick response. They didn't take a halftime or anything. They were able to kind of buckle down and finish a game. So that was impressive to see for sure.
Yeah, it was definitely a vintage. I kind of said this in our group chat, but it was like a vintage Mahomes era Chiefs win. Like we're so used to how they've been winning this year with the defense. It was, offense started slow, defense did too, got them in a hole, but offense got on a scoring run. We're so used to that. And so it was kind of nice to see that again, see this team kind of play like we're maybe used to in the Chiefs, the Mahomes era. But Nate, one thing that is new to this Chiefs team within the Mahomes era is Rashee Rice, right? The rookie wide receiver. And man, did he have a day. He had a career day. Talk about the rookie receiver for us.
Sure. So for the website this week, I wrote about Rashee Rice and kind of the ways the Chiefs were using him on Sunday. I would go check that out. It was something I actually really enjoyed writing. But we'll kind of go through the series of clips that I have in that article anyways, because it was a great performance. I would argue it was definitely the best performance of a Chief wide receiver this year. 8 catches for 107 yards on 10 targets. And I don't think it was anything that groundbreaking or new that the Chiefs were necessarily using him on, but they were just finding more ways to kind of get him the ball within the structure of the offense. So we're going to go through kind of a variety of clips here. To start, this was on 3rd and 8. They're in the red zone here. The Raiders are actually going to respond to this formation with what's called a one-double, which the Chiefs have been facing a ton of recently. When they put Travis Kelce on the backside of these formations, teams are basically just responding. It doesn't even matter if it's on the backside, but especially on the backside, they're just putting 2 guys on Kelce and asking other guys to win. So one way the Chiefs kind of countered this week was by using kind of these bunch formations with Rice, putting him on the outside and having him kind of run horizontally underneath, getting him runaways. Because these 2 bodies are kind of concentrated on Kelce, that kind of once Clyde kind of leaves the backfield here, we kind of have a lot more space. We have kind of a 4-on-4. So when Justin Watson and Sky Moore, let this play out, when they kind of set these picks, essentially these kind of legal picks, essentially, it gets Rice a lot more space. And against kind of bunch rules, your outside corner has to be an outside leverage. And when he's trying to work through kind of all this trash, that's almost an impossible angle against a guy like Rice. And something I kind of talked about in the article is that this is potentially a way the Chiefs can kind of work to get out of some of these one-double coverages, because right now teams are not threatened by anything else because the Chiefs kind of lack the personnel to beat man coverage. So what Reed is going to have to respond with is more formationally ways to beat man coverage and getting Rice going underneath horizontally. When teams are giving up explosive passes on 3rd down in man coverage, it's going to force them to alter the way they play defensively, potentially moving forward. So that's kind of the first clip I have here. This second clip, the Chiefs used a lot of RPOs, but I like to call these SROs, like these screen run options, because that's essentially what it is. And it's an easy way. They've been doing this all year with Rice, but I felt like it was a little more concentrated this week in order to just kind of get him downhill linearly because he's by far their best athlete kind of in a straight line going downhill. So it's nothing crazy. It's just a basic kind of SRO. Mahomes likes the numbers. You like to see Rice kind of just put like his foot in the ground. Safety kind of takes a bad angle. He's able to generate close to a first down. Just easy, it's easy offense, easy way to kind of move the chains, especially when like they have good numbers and good blocking. That's a way they can generate explosive passes through quick passing game. This next play, I talked about this in the article. Every NFL team, NFL offenses have kind of scramble rules, and the Chiefs are even like more bizarre than anything else. And for newer players, especially rookies, it's definitely challenging to kind of pick that up with Patrick Mahomes. And it's been a challenge for Rice, admittedly. He's not done great in the scramble drill stuff this year, but he did have a good catch this week in the scramble drill. He's kind of in his number 2 spot here in the slot. He's going to run just like a basic spot route. Mahomes is going to bail to the left, and you're going to see Rice is able to just kind of drift up field. This linebacker's going to come downhill. Nothing crazy, but this is still encouraging because there are pockets of space when Mahomes scrambles. Mahomes is scrambling way more this year than he ever has. So if Rice is able to kind of continue learning and developing to find these kind of zone holes, that's encouraging going forward and gets him on the field more. I can't remember what this clip is. Oh, yes. So one difference, and I want to shout out your tweet, Ron, because I didn't realize this, is the Chiefs use Rashee Rice way more on the outside this week. I believe your tweet was he only played a third of his snaps in the slot, 33%. They were using him a lot more on these outside throws. And what these throws are, I call free access throws. And basically what a free access throw is, it's pretty simple. If the quarterback likes the matchup, the coverage, potentially the cornerback facing Rice, he just has the ability to disregard kind of the rest of the progression and just throw it straight to him. And it could be a variety of routes. The Chiefs were using Rice on slants, fades, a variety of routes. This one's just kind of a stop, and it actually ends up in a drop, but we'll kind of see this come back here in a second. But you like to see that the Chiefs are deciding to give Rice a little more opportunities to win on his own, to give him opportunities from Mahomes to kind of throw, give him the outlet to trust Rice on these situations. Obviously, you want to catch the ball, but it's still kind of encouraging to see him get those opportunities. I guess I messed up the drawing on this, but I'll kind of talk about what this is. This is that Y cross play that you guys talked about. Basically, it's a variation of it. What this is basically going to turn into is MVS is going to run the clear go. Watson's going to motion in and kind of run this over, kind of setting this pick. The Raiders actually screwed this up. I believe they're in some sort of like man match type of coverage. Both this slot and this cornerback is going to run with Watson. That part of it really doesn't matter here because if this is played out correctly, MVS is going to clear out this corner with the vertical anyways. But what this kind of does anyways is it forces like your second level to really distribute well, and they're going to get Rice going underneath. And again, the Raiders don't match this very well, but you see kind of the upfield acceleration by Rice, the ability, again, to get him horizontally, get him downhill, generate explosive plays. This isn't straight man coverage, but it's still an opportunity to get him going. And kind of my last play here, we're going to talk about this kind of free access again. We have Rice isolated. This is the play that we saw the fade. I don't have like the stats. I do think Mahomes is doing a better job in between 20 yards on these fade routes this year. I think that's something that he's kind of added to his bag. And we kind of saw the Chiefs trust Rice to be able to win. I actually don't think this is like a phenomenal route by any means. He's going to use this like shoulder shimmy look back. The cornerback kind of sits on it, but it doesn't matter necessarily. It's more the fact that the Chiefs are willing to trust him, to be able to give him those access throws and trust him to win. And the fact that Mahomes are throwing it there. So overall, it was an encouraging performance from Rice. It's encouraging to see the Chiefs find new ways to get him the ball. It's still a rookie. There's still so much growth for Rice. Even in this game, there were plenty of routes that I don't think were fantastic, but it's still good. It's still progress. It's clear the Chiefs have something with Rice that, frankly, they haven't seen with any other wide receiver that they've had since Tyreek Hill. So it's still encouraging to see. And for the Chiefs moving forward, Rice is their one. This is what I wrote in the article. Rice is their best option to get defenses out of one double coverages based off the way he can run after the catch. So going forward, the Chiefs are going to have to find ways to get him moving downhill, linear in space, so that defenses kind of have to counter a zone, which is where the Chiefs kind of need to be if they want to maximize what Travis Kelce is at this stage of his career.
Yeah, no, I was really encouraged with Rice's expanded production. I mean, you laid it all out there. That was awesome. The thing I know you mentioned the route at the end, his fade route. The thing I really liked about that though was how well the timing ended up, how perfect the throw was accuracy wise.
It was an amazing throw.
Mahomes felt very good about where that ball was going, put it exactly where it was supposed to, even with Rice kind of, making a little bit of a move at the line of scrimmage. So I think that was really encouraging just in the timing wise. I mean, obviously we've seen some mishaps between Mahomes and the receivers on downfield throws, timing wise. So, Caleb, I know you highlighted on Twitter too how that shallow cross, man, that he scored on. That's kind of how they got Kelsey going in 2014. I kind of thought about that too. What is just what's so exciting, I guess, about Rice on that kind of play where he's just galloping into space? I mean, I don't know. What are you getting excited about with Rice?
So, I mean, I remember like draft time, it was contested catches, but people are worried about the separation. But then when you watch him run with the ball, you're like, he's got some running back like qualities. We've seen that. He's a yak monster. I mean, he's among the league leaders in yak right now. I haven't looked at what it was after this last game yet, but he's still tearing it up. And now we finally saw that glimpse of everything that kind of was like his college highlight reel, like his 3-minute, Bombs Away Productions or whatever some YouTube page would be that does that, would have on there would be just him mossing some small cornerbacks from the American Atlantic Conference. But now you're starting to see it a little bit more. And honestly, I think that could be where you see more of like the Juju comparison. Do we start to see maybe some more back shoulder fades? This whole thing progresses out. I'd be curious to see that also.
And I'll just add too that, Rasheed did say that after the game, like, hey, I kind of glad they used me like that because that's what I was good at in college. He said that. It was kind of funny to hear him say that after the game and post game. He kind of knows it. Any last thoughts on Rasheed, Nate, before Caleb gets going on the run game?
Yeah, I'm just going to kind of reiterate again, like the Chiefs have something with Rice. It might not happen consistently week to week because he's a rookie, but it's clear like that they have something within him. And that they continue to need to find ways to kind of get him the ball in space because the Chiefs have struggled to kind of generate explosive plays with their wide receivers or even just kind of anyone in general this year. And he's by far their best outlet. So keep feeding him. Even if it has to be designed, even if it has to be manufactured, it's by far their best option at this point to kind of generate explosive plays.
Yeah, much better option than Justin Watson getting 10 targets is Rashee Rice getting 10 targets in a game. What do you know? 31 points and a win instead of a discouraging loss when that's flipped. Caleb, let's talk about the run game, the Chiefs offense, the Chiefs offensive line. What did you kind of see as you dove into that part of the offense on Sunday?
So I think I started to touch on it a little bit last week when we did our show on the Eagles. I left a little bit of it. I didn't end up writing about it or anything. That's what I looked at this week. I honestly thought this week was pretty similar to last week. You saw like these instances where it can be very good, where they can be very effective running the football. And then you saw instances where like they weren't really effective at all. And I've got, there's some different reasons for that. But number one, I do have a couple of stats I'm going to give you tonight. I mean, Isaiah Pacheco is the fourth ranked running back in the league in third down conversions. This was a third down on the goal line. And they didn't mess around and try to run, zone or anything. They run trap. It's just a quick hitter. Pacheco can take it, and he can just kind of blast in. You see quite a bit of competitive spirit from the offensive line there. So they were doing pretty good. And here they are running it again a little bit later. And this has just got me thinking. The Chiefs have run so much of this offset zone, so many of these plays where Pacheco's taking a jab, and then he's got to kind of read the play, what's going on. So, on this one, it's going to be like a little jab or a little hesitation. It was more so on the touchdown, but you see this one, he just takes it, and he's following Trey Smith, and he's following his guys, and it's like a big rip. That's like an 8-yard pickup, like it's nothing. And then here they are running power again, just another quick hitter, downhill type of play. This has got me kind of looking at some of these other things, though, is Pacheco right now is ranking 29th in the league in yards after contact. So I don't know if that's necessarily what they want in a guy who they're running a high amount of zone with. You'd think it's crazy. You'd think you'd want like your big contact breakers to be running like zone, or, to be running power and trap. But honestly, as good as the Chiefs offensive line has looked blocking those plays these last few weeks, you honestly want your explosive guy, because if someone's out of position on the defense, that's how you could create more big plays. And eventually they did open back up some zone looks here. Kelsey's obviously motioning around, but I mean, you see the tackles, their hands are not in this ground, and they've got everyone thinking it's going to be a pass. Nice little wrinkle because, Juwan and Donovan had to go back to putting their hands in the ground, even on even on passing plays, because they were both getting a little jumpy in there. You know, all the penalties, it was giving them a good mark. I think they might have graduated past that a little bit. But you see, you know, everyone's on the Raiders defense at first, just kind of like Max Crosby's looking like he's getting ready to play upfield now. Number 5 is going to be coming, but he just kind of he engulfs himself, and Pacheco just makes a nice cut, gets to the outside there. He didn't really do a whole lot after that. And this is a big third down moment for the Chiefs. And they actually this is when Wanya Morris was in the game. They call zone left. They go his way. Him and Joe Tooney, they get a nice double team block. It's a rookie on rookie matchup there between he and Wilson. But Pacheco kind of sees that, and you see how much more physical the number 9 Wanya is, and he's able to kind of flatten him out and push him down the line. Pacheco gets more than enough, and good finish by the rookie there. He played a few important, interesting snaps through the course of the game. And then I just thought this is a really nice play by Donovan Smith on Crosby. He's been fighting through injuries. Everyone's kind of ready to kick him to the curb. And I mean, he's, you know, when you consider how much money they're actually paying him, I'm like, I don't think they're going to replace him with Wanya yet this season, but it could be something we see. So this play is where I kind of got some issues with the Chiefs run game. And they didn't run like the offset zone or anything like that. They got like a RPO type look on the outside here. My issue with it is, and you can see it almost better from the wide view. We'll go into the end zone view. But really, you see the safety at the top of the screen. You know, it looks like the Chiefs have this 4-2 box. But really, once this safety kind of comes down, even though Kelsey is down there, that kind of takes away their numbers game. Like they have Kelsey in the backfield there to help out. So then, and then the backside guy, you know, it's so slow developing because that guy ends up coming down to fill. There's not really an angle for Pacheco to go. So I feel like that's somewhere where they can help him, maybe call some better plays, maybe figure out that, you know, you can't run zone into these looks and obvious running downs. People are expecting it. But to make matters even more interesting for me, you take a look at the backside. They're big on big because it is an RPO look. So, like, basically you have your 3-on-3 on the front side. Well, you got 3 guys. You got 2 backers flowing. Kelsey is in the equation, but 41, I mean, that's like the read guy for the RPO. So he's going to be free if you give the ball off. And, I mean, that's not fair to Pacheco. Like I mentioned those stats a second ago. That's not all entirely on him, though. Like, you have to be put in a position. I thought there's been some questionable play calling with stuff like this. But this one, Pacheco did just miss it. And this is kind of like, I'm not trying to like beat up on him or anything, but they do need to find a viable second option. Clyde is, I think he might be beyond done at this point. He looks very slow out there. He's gotten some decent scheme runs the last few weeks. No telling what the deal is with McKinnon. I don't think this is something they'll be able to really fix unless, you know, they are saving like a guy like LaMichael Pirine or someone like that, and they're going to do the fresh legs approach in the playoffs. But even then, I don't know if that'll have that great of an impact on that. So really just the thing I just keep trying to come back to with some of these runs, and I had that plan there twice, but the thing I just keep trying to come back to with some of these plays, and this is I just added this in here because it was a nice twist turn off and people thought that was holding, but it was just a good block by Juwan Taylor. My thing is the Chiefs' run game could be so much better, and it is encouraging seeing the passing game starting to pick it up here a lot lately. But my thing with the run game is, like we've kind of touched on last week, they've got to get away from so much zone. And I think they did get away from like the heavier personnel. They went a lot of 11 this week. They've been very effective out of running an 11 personnel. Pacheco is fine. I think he's like I think he'd be best as like their outside zone toss back or like their power and trap back. I don't know if this is something they'll be able to address in season, but I mean, they should try to get another back who probably is a little more laterally mobile, a guy that can kind of, you know, cut and make his angles and kind of decipher the zone blocks. And then, like I mentioned, I was writing about it also this week, but the play calling can be better. You don't need to be putting your guys in situations like that where, you know, they're just going to be running into, you know, a full box of people, even though it doesn't look like that at the snap.
Yeah, I think this week we saw more, and you just showed it. I mean, some of their successful runs were some of those, you know, gap plays, trap or power out of 11 personnel, lighter formations, trying to get that, like emphasizing the lighter box, really spreading the defense out. and trying to, really find run lanes, widen them out naturally. But yeah, I mean, I think to me, honestly, Caleb and Nate, I want I obviously want your take here. You've been on the running backs hard all year, and we all have, but the more and more it just feels like as much as they can do schematically, as much as they can do, as much as well as the offensive line can block, like, these backs, man, like they, Pacheco is, I think he's just inconsistent sometimes too with this vision. I feel like sometimes he's much cleaner. And other times, I think you just showed it, Caleb, where there's times where he's just not seeing it as well as he probably could. But I don't know, Nate, are you still leaning that, the running backs maybe the real thing kind of limiting the ceiling of this run game, or what are you kind of feeling with the run game here 12 games in?
Yeah, I'll be candid. The running game was good Sunday. I'm taking nothing away from it. I need to see them run against a good run defense first for a whole game because they were very good in the first half against the Eagles. I was so encouraged, and in the second half they just absolutely fell apart. But yeah, I actually was thinking today when I was kind of just thinking today, I was like, I actually would kind of hope that like Ezekiel Elliott gets cut from the Patriots. I know he doesn't fit like the lateral movement guy anymore, but Zeke is still good. Like I've watched him recently a little bit. Like he has a little bit of juice still in his legs. Like he's not in the Le'Veon Bell zone by any means. I have no idea if he's going to get cut or not. But that was something I was thinking. I was like, if this thing goes bad in New England, I would absolutely, if he gets cut, I would absolutely bring in Zeke. But yeah, I mean, it's not a great part of this team this year. McKinnon is definitely just worse from last year. He looks nowhere close to the same athletically as he was. Clyde has his own issues still. So I just think it's kind of an issue with this team. I would like to see them give Michael P. Ryan a shot. Maybe Deneric Prince, although I was not encouraged by Deneric in the preseason, but it's preseason. It was bad, second tier offensive lineman, so you can't take much away there. But yeah, I would be perfectly okay seeing them give someone else a shot, seeing if they at least can give them kind of a shot in the arm a little bit.
I know. I was surprised we didn't see any Michael P. Ryan on Sunday. They brought him up, didn't really do anything with him. I know we were talking last time, Caleb. I have a Spencer Ware comparison for him brewing if he ever gets a chance. So I'm hoping P. Ryan does. But one last thing on the offense, Caleb, I want your take on just, we talk about the running backs, talk about the receivers, but that third tight end position too. Having Blake Bell as that third tight end. I know you were kind of watching and feeling like, maybe there's some wasted reps there. I don't know. How are you feeling about the 13 personnel? And is to me, it just feels so less useful this year, and that just really kind of takes a chunk out of the offensive playbook.
Yeah, and I mean that just happens sometimes in the NFL. When you're highly effective at something, some people are going to sell out to take it away. So like it doesn't make sense. It adds up that last year the Chiefs became this excellent team in 13, and now everyone's got its hands. Now everyone's got the answer for it. I'd say the thing that's hurt them this year is no one cares what Blake Bell does, because if he comes in, it's going to be a run play or he's going to be in blocking. And I'll also say this. I thought Noah Gray is pretty bad the last few games at his run fits and his run blocking. There was a rep in here. I don't know if I caught it, but he just ran up to the linebacker and he got knocked down really quickly. And if he just stayed on his block, I think that Pacheco might have had a chance to pick up more yards. It could have been a more explosive type play. So I mean, I still think Noah Gray is good in the passing game. I think he's good for that. I mean, it's just kind of going back to the draft cycle last year. It's like, man, there was a lot of tight end options. We saw a lot of guys go, and a lot of guys are playing a little bit more now. So that was discouraging, but that's just it's tight end 3. It is what it is.
I don't think we talk enough on the show about Nate's guy Sam Laporta just coming in looking like baby Gronk just right away. Got to shout out Nate. You were high on him. I mean, I think we all were AP.
It's so obvious.
Yeah, he's nice. He's nice with it. But yeah, that's a good point, Caleb. A lot of skill. I think all the skill positions could really use a hard look at this offseason. It'd be nice to see kind of a really revamped skill position group next year. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. We got a long season to go, but this is what we do here. We're always thinking the X's and O's. We're always thinking ahead. And we're going to flip to the defense now. I'll kind of give us a little rundown on why the defense just didn't maybe look as clean as it had all year to start the game against the Raiders. Aiden O'Connell was looking like Tom Brady for the first 3 drives, just absolutely dicing up the Chiefs on third down. And this was the first example. It may not have been the first example. It wasn't actually. This is the second third down that they converted. And really, this is just to show, first of all, that this is a great pressure dialed up by Spags. You're going to see he has McDuffie blitz off the nickel, and he's going to drop Karlaftis from the other side, and Willie, who's kind of creeping off that edge too. And actually, you're going to see it from the end zone camera that he actually gets two offensive linemen blocking air, over here with the left guard in the center. He's gonna have everybody coming to the right side. He's gonna overload it. McDuffie does a great job coming in, but it was late, so he gets there, after the ball, and this is just kind of the risk you take, dropping a defensive lineman in coverage. I really feel like Karlaftis has a great chance to make a play here. He just kind of hesitates. He just doesn't really make the play as quickly, as smoothly as he could. And again, that's just because, hey, he's a 260-pound defensive lineman. It's not always going to be perfect, but that's Spags for you, dialing it up. Again, it's just one of those things you got to tip your cap to Aiden O'Connell for that specific one. But then on this one, the touchdown, it's not as much of a tip your cap moment as much of just a brain fart kind of thing on Justin Reed's part, really. What you're going to get here is a too-high shell. You're going to have L'Jarius Sneed down on your screen here, locked in on Devontae Adams and man. You're going to have McDuffie locked in on Hunter Renfrow and man. I like the kind of way they match those two up. And then you're going to have the too high here where Edwards is going to be giving Sneed help with Adams. Then you're just going to have Cook over the top over here. That leaves your other two underneath defenders, Watson and Reed, to pretty much just play man match here. They're manning up, but obviously if Mayer goes out and Myers goes in, Mayer goes out, Myers goes in, they're going to switch up. That's what just Jalen Watson's trying to tell Justin Reed right now. I don't know if Justin Reed is listening because if you watch the play, he just goes right out with Mayer, leaves Myers wide open, no one covering him. And honestly, I'm not a huge fan of the effort here after the play either. He kind of just jogs and watches him get into the end zone after B. Cook misses the tackle. So brain fart on the first drive to kind of lead to that touchdown. Just kind of showing that, hey, look, it was a self thing, right off the bat, misexecution on the Chiefs' part. Here's another example of that I am pulling up right now. It's actually, I thought Jalen Watson played a really good game, run and pass on Sunday. He had a few really nice run tackles. I think he may have made some plays in the pass game as well, but this was kind of a play here where I just feel like he just completely mistimes it and really could have had a pick. Honestly, I think if he plays this better and he kind of is more patient here, you're going to see the Chiefs rotate late. They've been doing it all year, right? This is a third down, I believe. They look like they're in too high with Edwards and Cook, but then you're going to see Reed back up, and then they get to too high with Reed as one of them, and Cook has to come all the way to the other side, get over the top of this go route. They're in cover two, so Watson's going to have that zone turn. And he just turns too early. It really is. You're just going to watch him at the top of the screen. I think Myers maybe turns a little. I think it might be because of the sticks too, right? Like where the first down marker is. He sees that they're past it. That ball's probably going to be coming. But he does just miss time and misjump it. Allows the catch to go right over his hands. I think if Watson just gives himself, is just a little more patient here, a little more calm in his turn, doesn't get as excited. Or doesn't turn as quickly, or just jump as I feel like he maybe just like gets all the way into his back pedal too much. He should have just kind of kept, run into the side a little bit, if that makes sense. So I think that was just kind of a mistimed jump, misplay on Jalen Watson's part. Could have been a huge play for the Chiefs. Another, again, self-inflicted error, self-inflicted wound. And so that is also the case on Josh Jacobs' touchdown run, the big touchdown run. That was 63 yards or so. This was the Raiders taking advantage of the Chiefs in their backup personnel in the defensive line. For starters, you're going to have Felix Henrique-Ozama as the front side end. You're going to have Matt Dickerson as this 3-tech on the play side. And you're going to have actually another thing here, another sneaky thing is McDuffie as a slot defender here. You're going to see him get taken out and completely taken out of the box by Mayer. Kind of that sneaky thing, the difference between him and Sneed is much more of a linebacker, can definitely handle himself a lot more, once the blocks are happening in the box. I think McDuffie is obviously slippery and can make up for it a lot of the time, kind of like a Tyrann Mathieu could back in the day. But you're going to see here that, and honestly, the linebackers just do an awful job here. Tranquil and Chenal both just get way too caught up. Tranquil, I don't know what he's thinking here. Just he thinks he almost plays this like an inside run when it's clearly getting marked off tackle. The runner is clearly angling towards the off tackle, and you're just going to see bad pursuit angles, no one at the second level once he breaks through, and then Mike Edwards misses the tackle here. Another sneaky thing is the difference between Cook and Mike Edwards as open field tacklers. And I know B Cook had a missed tackle on the first touchdown that I showed, but I still think B Cook is a much, much better tackler than Edwards is. And it's why you see him play on rundowns over Edwards, even though you see Edwards in a lot more now. I think it's because they do like Edwards as that pass down free safety at times. But here, you're just going to see that the rookie on the edge, he just gets hooked. He just gets blocked. Mayer does a really good job helping his left tackle set the edge. Colton Miller gets, that's Colton Miller, I think. He gets the hook here. Dickerson kind of gets held up a little bit. You could say this might be holding. I think it's kind of tough to see. I think on Dickerson it probably is, but still gets held up. You're gonna see McDuffie here just get locked up. He's not getting off of that. And again, that might be a little small difference when you have McDuffie in the slot versus a Connor or a Snead. Where you're going to lose some of that run. And that's why you do see Connor in the slot quite a bit. It's for those rundowns. It's for stuff like that, taking on tight ends. And so, I think that's just kind of a little soft spot in the Chiefs defense that they have to think about, at times is, that's why Felix isn't playing on rundowns. That's why, Matt Dickerson, he's been playing decent snaps, but it should be a very limited amount of snaps, because you're going to get caught in those kind of situations. And here is the fact that they did turn it around in the second half. They did, shut them down for only 3 points after the first 2 touchdowns. It was a 31-3 run. And honestly, they kind of did sometimes, play straight up, but really they just turned up the pressure package even more on O'Connell. Here are a few third downs in the second half. I just thought this was diabolical, honestly. You have Reed and Tranquil both standing straight up over the running back, not knowing which one's going to blitz, which one's going to take the running back. Reed makes a late movement. And Tranquil actually doesn't even end up, picking up the running back, in protection, or like he's going to man him up. It's actually Reed who still blitzes through, and Tranquil actually comes all the way over to take away the hot route over here. But the blitz is so heavy, the blitz is so pressured that, there's no way the ball is going to get through. Ball gets batted down. So Spags dialing it up. Just the late movement at the line of scrimmage. Omeni, who over the nose tackle, getting, Reed's movement at the line of scrimmage helps Jones get free too. That was just a nice pressure package. And you're going to see it at the end as well. Here's the sort of the same thing where you're going to crowd the line of scrimmage, crowd it with Reed. Reed's going to get up there, use his physicality to create some pressure, create some movement for Charles Omenihu. And then you got that late blitzer late with Edwards. He doesn't get through like McDuffie did on the other play. So O'Connell does have some room to make the throw, but Tranquil does a really good job of pursuing, getting to the hot route from that backside A gap and making the tackle before the first down. So this is a stop. So again, Chiefs defense showed some soft spots. I really think there were some things you could learn from the ways the Chiefs gave up some big plays on Sunday. Again, some of this depth, needs to be, really careful how they're used. I don't think FAU should be playing on rundowns in a crucial moment right now. Right. I know this wasn't a crucial game, a crucial moment, but and I do like that they're giving Dickerson and FAU and guys like that more and more snaps in these games that, hey, these aren't playoff games. And I do think they're going to win a lot of these games down the stretch, no matter how well they play, just because of the opponents. But I do think, just some of the soft spots in the defense, mental errors. I think that's something that we haven't seen a lot of from them this year. But with the way Spags runs his defense, with the way he tells that, all the different ways they can attack you on defense and blitzing and stuff, that can lead to confusion sometimes too. Just straight up can. And sometimes it leads to people, mis-executing. So haven't seen it a lot this year, but I think there were definitely some, just some things to look at from the game defensively. But again, hey, the Raiders, you just got to give credit to O'Connell, right, Nate? I know that was kind of the thing we were pretty impressed with, was just how he was kind of handling the blitz, right?
Yeah, no, Aiden O'Connell played well. He handled the blitz better than Jalen Hurts did, and it wasn't even close. Like, he was getting to his hots consistently. Having Devontae Adams helps. Just kind of talk about defensive performance. I thought the Raiders actually called a really good game. A lot of their answers to the blitz was just having Devontae Adams just be Devontae Adams, and that's not a bad answer. But I thought over the course of the game, you saw the blitz kind of eventually just kind of hit home more. I thought the offensive line started kind of picking up the protection, or the blitzes were, stuff like that, and then the Chiefs kind of just settled in. Just to give some players some specific shout-outs, I thought Charles Omenihu was terrific. When I watched him again, he played, I think, probably his best overall game as a Chief, even if it wasn't as splashy. I thought consistently against the run, he was great. Drew Tranquil, besides that one play you mentioned, I thought he was just fantastic. He was cleaning up everything for the Chiefs. He blew up a huge screen that would have had a ton of space. I don't know if it led to a sack, but it led to, at least a negative play or whatever. Justin Reed had a really bad first quarter. I thought after that, though, he was really good. So I thought those three players played really good games. I was really encouraged to see that. But yeah, I actually thought the Raiders, I wasn't, when I went through the rewatch, I was expecting to be more upset with the defense, and I really wasn't. I actually think the Raiders just had a really good game plan, and O'Connell executed it well. And eventually they kind of faced a talent deficit, and that's when the Chiefs kind of figured it out.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that the Raiders deserve a lot of credit for how they played. I mean, even talk about the second drive, they don't go for it on that fourth down. They could have scored a third touchdown with the way they were rolling. So definitely the Raiders deserve some credit there. Caleb, any thoughts before we get out of here on kind of the Chiefs' defensive performance? One of the maybe leakier ones they've had in recent games.
I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing they struggled, because now they'll have something to stay hungry, go look at, fix those mistakes. And the Raiders, I mean, as much as we do like to dog on the other teams, I mean, they do get paid too. This was obviously a very emotional game for them. They, fired their coach a few weeks ago. Obviously they were going to be fired up. They're going to be, some of those coaches on that staff are probably coaching for their job next year, so they probably spend a little extra time. And I think you said it best, though, during the game, Ron, and it just felt like the Chiefs were getting a little overcomplicated, like they were in Philly mode still, and they maybe needed to just dumb it down and play a little bit of base defense here or there. They probably would have been just as fine. But, I don't think they should apologize for, like dropping their defensive line back, because there's been a lot of plays this year that stuff has worked. And eventually, at some point, one of those guys is going to get to a ball. That's going to be crazy when it does happen. So I'll be looking forward to seeing, how they continue to come out and react. They got I don't know if you guys watch much of the Packers game. Jordan Love looked good until they started blitzing him a little bit. So I'm curious to see what Spags will have drawn up this week.
Yeah, I didn't include, probably my favorite clip from the game was 320-pound nose tackle Derek Nottie dropping in a fire zone blitz and onto the side Devontae Adams, like you mentioned, Nate. Like some of the answers were literally just throwing quickly to Adams, and this was that example. And one of the guys was dropping was Nottie, but yeah, that's when it was to me like, all right, we're doing it a little too much for a rookie quarterback. Maybe we don't need to get this complicated and try to confuse him this much. We can maybe just play straight up. But you're right, Caleb. This is what makes Spags great, and it is what's gonna, he, as much as he does this, the beautiful things about Spags is like we're gonna get a playoff game, and that's gonna be his tendency, is doing that on certain pass downs, and then he's just gonna completely flip it, and he's not gonna do it at all depending on what the situation is, or he just doesn't have tendencies. This dude is just a mad hatter completely. And it's fun to be a fan of a team that Spags coaches on. That is for dang sure. So, all right, guys, that has been a good show. It's been a fun time, fun night. Appreciate y'all joining. Appreciate y'all listening, watching on the YouTube, the Twitter, the Facebook. We try to do this every Tuesday evening, try to break down the X's and O's from the Chiefs' previous game. So make sure you check in with us at all times. Make sure you're following arrowheadpride.com. Make sure you follow all of us on Twitter. Until next time, go Chiefs. Appreciate you guys listening.